You know, getting ahead of myself here. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, was kind of hinting at the fact that by the time I get through with this, might be evening. This is the story of the prophet Ezekiel. This is now part 8. If we had done all this as one thing, it would probably be the next day. But I'll shorten it as I can. In the 10th year, this prophecy regarding Egypt came to Jeremiah before the fall of Jerusalem. At this time, there were still some in Judah and Jerusalem who had hoped that Egypt would rescue them from the powerful Babylonians. Ezekiel 29 begins a 4-chapter series of prophecies against Egypt. This level of warning was necessary because even though Egypt had held Israel in slavery for 400 years, Israel also had an impulse to look to Egypt in times of crisis that predated their years of slavery, going all the way back to Abraham's earliest days in Canaan. Starting with Genesis, the 12th chapter, the 10th verse. That's a long one, but we'll read it ourselves. I'll just read verse 20. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram, this was a while back, his name was still Abram. This is the kind of stuff that in your Bible studies you look over it and there's nothing there for you if you don't think about it. But as you think about these things, this was a long time. And along with that, 400 years of slavery after that. That's a long time to wait. I hear people now, hurry up, Lord, I can't wait any longer. Yeah, you might think that way, but try waiting 400 years. Reread the rest on your own. Isaiah again warned Elohim's people. In Isaiah, the 31st chapter, the 1st verse. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help and lean on horses and trust in chariots, because it is great, and in horsemen, because they are so strong, very strong. But they do not look to the Holy One of Israel, nor do they seek Yahweh Elohim. Even in Jeremiah's days, in Ezekiel's days even, the Israelites still looked to Egypt for help instead of trusting Elohim and his plan. And to this day, they still seek help from the Goyim, or the nations, rather than trust in Yahweh Elohim or Yeshua as their Messiah. They still haven't done that. If they don't soon stop this, they will be no more forever. As you saw last week in Ezekiel, the 28th chapter, the 19th verse, all who know you among the peoples shall be astonished at you. You shall be terrors, and you will not be forever. And we start in Ezekiel, the 29th chapter, the first verse. Ezekiel, the 29th chapter, the first verse. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, in the 12th of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, so says the sovereign Yahweh, Behold, I, even I, am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon who lies in the midst of his rivers, who has said, My river is mine. Already overstepping his bounds. Whose world is it? My river is mine, and I have made it. Deeper and deeper he digs. And I have made it. But I will put hook in your jaws, and I will cause the fish of your rivers to stick to your scales. And I will bring you up out of the midst of your rivers. Your rivers. He using his words against us. I will bring you up out of the midst of your rivers, and all the fish of your rivers shall stick to your scales. And I will leave you to the wilderness, you and all of the fish of your rivers. He just keeps digging it in. You in trouble now. That's what he's saying. You shall fall on the open fields. You shall not be removed nor gathered. I have given you for food to the beasts of the field and to the birds of the heavens. And all the people of Egypt shall know that I am Yahweh, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. When they took you by your hand, you broke and tore off all of their shoulders. And when they leaned on you, you shattered and made all their loins stand. So the sovereign Yahweh says this, Behold, I will bring a sword on you and cut off man and beast. Behold, I will bring a sword on you and cut off man and beast from you. And the land of Egypt shall be a desert and waste, and they shall know that I am Yahweh, because he has said, the river is mine, and I have made it. If you don't know, this was Pharaoh Hophra. He was thought of by many Egyptians as a crocodile, by the way. that he deftly defeated his foes. But observe how Yahweh Elohim thinks of him. Verse 10, behold, and therefore I am against you and against your rivers. And I will make the land of Egypt a complete ruin, a waste, a ruin from Migdal to Syene, even to the border of Ethiopia. No foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast shall pass through it, and you shall not live in it for 40 years. And I will make the land of Egypt a ruin in the midst of the ruined land, and her cities shall be deserted 40 years among the cities that are laid waste. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will scatter them through all the land. So says the sovereign Yahweh, at the end of 40 years, I will gather the Egyptians from the peoples that they were scattered, and I will bring them again to the captivity of Egypt. Go back to your home to be captive again, if you didn't get that. And will cause them to return to the land of Pathros, into their homeland. And they shall be a low kingdom there. It shall be the lowest of the kingdoms, and shall no more exalt itself against the nations. Whose rivers is it now? For I will make them so few that they shall no more rule over the nations. And it shall never again be the hope of the house of Israel, recalling the iniquity of their turning off after them. And they shall know that I am the sovereign Yahweh. And it happened in the 27th year, in the first month, in the first of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to serve a great service against Tyre. Every head was made bald, and every shoulder was peeled, pinned back, in other words. Yet neither he nor his army had any pay for Tyre, for the service that he had served against it. 19. So the sovereign Yahweh says this, Behold, I will give the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall take her host, and take her spoil, and seize her plunder, and it shall be the wages for his army. For I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, with which he served against it, because they worked for me, says the sovereign Yahweh. In that day I will make a horn spring up to the house of Israel, and I will give you the opening of the mouth in their midst, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. Continuing in Ezekiel, the 30th chapter, the first verse, a lament for Egypt. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy, and say, So says the sovereign Yahweh, How? Woe is the day, for the day is near, even the day of Yahweh is near. Not yet, but near. And this was thousands of years ago. And we still huffing and puffing about waiting. Wait for it. It will be worth the wait. Verse 4. And the sword shall come on Egypt, and great pain shall be in Ethiopia, when the slain shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her multitude, and her foundations shall be broken down. Ethiopia and Libya and Lydia and all the mixed people and Chub and the men of the land who are in covenant with them shall fall by the sword. So says Yahweh, those who uphold Egypt shall also fall, and the pride of her power shall come down from Migdol to Syene. They shall fall in it by the sword, says the sovereign Yahweh. And they shall be ruined in the midst of the wasted land. And her cities shall be in the midst of the wasted cities. And they shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have set a fire in Egypt, and all her helpers shall be destroyed. In that day messengers shall go out from me in ships to terrify the confident Ethiopians, and anguish shall be on them as in the day of Egypt, for lo, it is coming. So says the sovereign Yahweh, I will also make the multitude of Egypt to cause to cease by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He and his people with them. The fearful of the nations shall be brought to destroy the land, and they shall draw their swords against Egypt and fill the land with the slain. And I will make the rivers dry and sell the land into the hand of the wicked. And I will waste the land and her fullness by the hand of strangers. I, Yahweh, have spoken. So says the sovereign Yahweh, I will also destroy the idols, and I will cause their images to cease out of Noth, a biblical name for the great Egyptian city of Memphis, Noth. And there shall no more be a ruler of the land in Egypt. And I will put a fear in the land of Egypt. And I will make Pathros a ruin. And will set fire in Zoan. And will do judgments in No. And I will pour my fury on Sin, the strength of Egypt. And I will cut off the multitude of No. And I will set fire in Egypt. Sin shall greatly anguish, and No shall be torn in pieces, and Noth shall have daily woes. The young men of Avon, Pibosheth, shall fall by the sword. And these cities shall go into exile. And at Taphanes also the day shall be held back, when I shatter the yokes of Egypt there. And the pride of her strength shall cease in her. As for her A cloud shall cover her, and her daughters shall go into exile. So I will do judgments in Egypt, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. If you notice this is a forward-looking thing to what we look to in Ezekiel 35 and 36. And a lot of this will link up at that point to the end times. That's why he says repeatedly, they will know that I am Yahweh. And all these people running around now talking about there is no God. Now, what will they say? While they hide in their caves and throw their gold into the streets and pay homage to who? The sovereign Yahweh. And he doesn't take gold. He takes hearts. Verse 20. And it happened in the 11th year, in the first month, in the 7th of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and lo, it shall not lie bound up to give healing, to put a bandage to bind it, to make it strong, to hold the sword. So the sovereign Yahweh says this, Behold, I am against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and will break his arms, the strong one and the broken one. And I will cause the sword to fall out of his hand, and I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will scatter them through the lands. And I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and put my sword in his hand. But I will break Pharaoh's arms, and he shall groan before him with the groanings of one who has been stabbed. But I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh shall fall, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. At this time, Pharaoh was the strongest in the world. When I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall stretch it on the land of Egypt, and I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and scatter them among the lands, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. The heading of that verse is Pharaoh to be slain. And that will probably happen here in Ezekiel, the 31st chapter, the first verse. And it happened in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the first of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his multitude. To whom are you like in your greatness? Now he asks again, who do you compare to now? How you say it nowadays, how you like me now? Verse 3, Behold, Assyria was like a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches and forest shade, and of great height. And his top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great. The deep set him on high, with her rivers running all around his plants, and sent out her little channels to all the trees of the field. So his height was lifted up above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the many waters when he sent out. All the birds of the heavens nested in his boughs, and under his branches all the beasts of the field bore their young. And under his shadow dwelt all great nations. So he was beautiful in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. The cedars in the garden of Elohim could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor was any tree in the garden of Elohim like him in his beauty. This is a parallel to the Garden of Eden. Nothing there was like him. Verse 9, I have made him beautiful, but his many branches, so that all the trees of Eden in the garden of Elohim envied him. So the sovereign Yahweh says this: because you have lifted yourself up in height, and he set his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in his height. So I have given him into the land of the mighty one of the nations. He shall surely deal with him. I have expelled him for his evil, and strangers have cut him off. The fearful of the nations, and have left him on the mountains, and in all the valleys his branches have fallen, and his boughs have been broken by all the rivers of the land. And all the people of the earth have gone from his shadow, and have left him. On his ruin shall all the birds of the heavens remain, and all the beasts of the field shall be on his branches, to the end that none of all the trees by the waters shall be exalted in their height, nor give their top among the thick boughs, nor should their trees stand up in their height, all that drink water. For all of them are given to death, to the lower parts of the earth, in the midst of the sons of men, with those who go down into the pit. 15. So says the sovereign Yahweh, in the day when he went down to the grave, I caused a mourning. I covered the deep for him, and I held back its floods, and the great waters were held back. And I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, and all the trees of the field fainted because of him. I made the nations shake at the sound of his fall, when I cast him down to hell with those who had gone down in the pit. And all the trees of Eden, the choicest and best of Lebanon, All that drink water shall be comforted in the lower parts of the earth. 17. They all went down to hell with him, to those who are slain with the sword, even his arm, who lived under his shadow in the midst of the nations. To whom are you like in glory and in greatness among the trees of Eden? You who shall be brought down with the trees of Eden to the lower parts of the earth, you shall lie in the midst of the uncircumcised, with those slain by the sword. This is Pharaoh and all his multitudes, says the sovereign Yahweh. A lament for Egypt. Ezekiel, the 30th verse, first verse. Chapter, 30th chapter, the first verse. How did that happen? Yeah. I don't know how that happened. Pharaoh to be slain. Ezekiel, the 31st chapter, the first verse. And it happened in the 11th year, in the 3rd month. Yeah. Yeah. I'll do this. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I checked this 4 times and I didn't check. I didn't find this. Yeah, and I'll start on that next week. And it will fit better next week because I will go through 35 and 36 next week. And a lot of keys to Revelation were in there. At this point, any questions, any comments, or anything else need to be clarified? David. David first.
I want to say, with the part where I was trying to figure out, was it future tense or past tense? Everything.
At the time, it was past tense.
Okay.
But all of these things will happen again in the future.
Oh.
Not in this exact same way, but all these nations will be plowed under in the future, in the end time. And, exactly. Sherry.
Every time the Father speaks, he continues to say, I am Yahweh. And they continue not to listen. and he's specifying to let you know who I am. And when will you give reverence and understanding of who I am? And they never did. And he continuously to remind them who he is. And they still don't, they choose not to listen. But he continues to say, I am, with emphasis, and they still don't listen to that.
The thing is, he rescued them from Egypt in the beginning. With miracles, they walked through the Red Sea roughshod. He split it in two. And that was a double miracle, because that word congeal means that he froze the water in place in the middle of the desert. Froze the water in place. And like you touched it, you got cold. And people just skip over that like it was nothing. That he did this congealing in a desert. It was hot. This water was freezing cold that they ran through. And nobody says anything about this. And they went back to these people as if they were nothing. And they did nothing to them, and they had them enslaved for 400 years. And they went back to them, and they found more strength in them than they did in Yahweh, Elohim. But he knew that, because if he got through to them, everybody else would be easy. And he says in several places, even Sodom and others will be willing to bow down when the time comes, more so than you are. That's something.
And Holy Spirit. And took them back and go back to slavery and bring me to this place. Do this. Let's don't do this again. Nobody, like you said, they looked over the frozen stuff. And
Just
all.
like now, if some of the news people would do their jobs, we would have more information about whatever this is that is out here making us sick. And I can't go against somebody that says it's this and that and the other. And no one has said conclusively what it is. And they're all paid off. Nobody's told them. And the people that are paid to know, they don't say anything because they will be cut off. And nobody is talking about how efficient our immune systems have become in all this. And these vaccines and such are getting into us in such a way that our immune systems don't work the way they're supposed to. And nobody is talking about that.
Somebody was sick. We did this before the people. tried this and it didn't work. No, that's it's like somebody.
And why does history repeat itself?
You don't learn. You don't learn. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. They got schools now that are teaching witchcraft instead of the Bible. Mm-hmm. Not just one, many in some areas. The only way that they're going to be shown, and he's showing us now, I am Yahweh. I am Yahweh. And you will bow down to me. And most of them at that time would be ready to arm themselves against him. How do you arm yourself against the King of the universe?
The sin has increased so much that even when you go to a grocery store or any department store, if you're not careful, right in the bottom of whatever you're buying, they have a little emblem. It's the pride flag, and yes. And I had to put a few stuff away because I got upset. I'm thinking, wait a minute, what is this? And my daughter says that's the gay pride. So if you buy from them, you're contributing because that's a huge part. And I end up going to the store and thinking, well, I guess I'm taking this. And there's simple things that, necessities. bare necessity. But even with that, they put that, and you're like, you feel like you're forced to buy it. And I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to buy this. If this is what I used to buy before, I won't buy it anymore. So I had to look for alternatives. But it's sad because my daughter says, yeah, Ma, on a lot of stuff you have to be careful because they have that. And he goes, and I know that because I have friends that are gay, of females, and they tell me and they show me. And I just looked at her and like, oh my goodness. But you know, we have to be aware of these things, that it might be like, oh, well, it's just this brand, I could just get it, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal.
If they're, what they're doing is pushing the world toward, they say it's acceptance, but in the end, it's fealty. You're going to be bowing down to these people, essentially. And they're going to be the ones that, and there's some hints that one of their Godhead is one to be one of them. Their Godhead, not the Godhead. I didn't say that. I'll say it 10 times to clear that up. That's not the Godhead. The Godhead. Their Godhead. And some of them say that the one that they're going to be in charge of is going to be one of them. And there are hints all through Jeremiah that that's true, and Daniel. And there was, I will go to the one that says that he will not be a respecter of women. Yeah. Two things have been accomplished today. I got to go back into the book. I've been doing everything by the electronic Bible, and I'm not used to this one anymore. That's a mistake, and I will correct that one real quick. But it says that I won't waste your time today. I'll find it. Yes, sir.
Luke 28, Luke 21. I'm okay. I can hear. Luke 21 and verse 8. And it says, and he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. The time is right now. The times are right now what we're living. And he said, and the Father says, do not be deceived. And there's a lot of deception out here. So we have to continue to draw near to Christ so he can draw near to us, and that we will know good from evil. And that the Holy Spirit will guide us all into truth. And we have to listen to that Holy Spirit and have the discerning of what we're seeing and understanding what we're hearing. The Father said, do not be deceived. Because the world that we're living in, and there's so many deceptions out here. So many things that are happening right in front of our faces. Don't be deceived. So we have to lean not unto our own understanding, but lean unto Yahweh, and He will guide and direct our footsteps. We have to continue, as you said, read this word. Because there's a lot of deception. There are a lot of sneaky things happening out here. Be not deceived, because it's happening right now as we speak.
And it's in all
All around.
at all levels,
At all, as you stated, Pastor, at all levels.
government.
Don't put your
And we were warned already about the press, because
right.
who is the prince of the power of the air?
There it is. That's right. He said it.
So we say, here he is, there he is, he is over here.
Father's talking. He's
Mhm.
talking to us in His word. Are we listening? He's
Are
talking
you
to us.
reading? Reading.
You can read, but you gotta believe. You can read all
Trust
that,
and believe.
but you got to believe.
You got to believe it. You got to believe in them
Sister
prayers.
Melina wants to say something.
You know, I was watching these people, they flip houses and everything, and they had the houses, the different apartments that they were getting ready to rent. And you know how people have pictures of Christ up on their wall? They had pictures of the Pope.
It's already happening.
Already there. You're in the house.
And, yep,
This was on television?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Refurbishing houses.
The question was it on television? And the answer was yes.
Check it out. Trust your belief. Don't go in with your eyes closed. No. Everything brings
I'll correct that next week.